Do you smell?
You're listening to the Davis Sports Feud.
What is happening?
Davis is cooking.
Bruh.
Online podcast.
What's going on, guys? Kyle Davis is the Davis Sports Feud. I'm back. It's been a little bit. I've been dealing with a little sickness. Got my second COVID shot, so dealt with a little bit of not feeling great for the second, all the symptoms and everything. So I have been gone for a little bit. I apologize, but don't worry. I'm back just in time for the NBA playoffs. Things have happened in the NFL. The MLB is in full swing, no pun intended, and the NHL playoffs are also underway. So before we get to the actual NBA playoffs, we are going to be getting into the play-in tournament, which is actually already started. If you're paying attention and out there, you're seeing that the Hornets are facing the Pacers, and it is not exactly going the Pacers way or the Hornets way right now. The Pacers are up 20-7. I actually thought this was going to be the Hornets game, in my opinion, because the Pacers are without Karis LeVert. They are out without TJ Warren. They are also without Miles Turner. So I didn't think anything could happen, but I'm kind of looking at the box score right now, and Doug McDermott has 11 points on 4 field goals for 4 for 4. So it looks like I might be wrong. Excuse me for a second. I might be wrong on that aspect, but who knows? It's a long game. I thought with LaMelo Ball coming in as hot as he has been, PJ Washington's been playing a lot better. Miles Bridges, the whole team, this whole Hornets team has been playing an improved brand of basketball, which is very refreshing to see. And everybody's hoping to see LaMelo Ball in the playoffs to see if he could get a shot at Philly, because that's the only seed they can get is the 8th seed. Both of these teams. The way this works is over the next couple days there will be a series of 2 games for each team, possibly. The 7th and 8th seed are playing each other either today or tomorrow, and that's the Wizards and Celtics, and then the Warriors and the Lakers. And the Hornets and Pacers and Spurs and Grizzlies are facing in their 9 and 10. Whoever wins in the 7-8 seed games moves on to the 7th seed in their respective conference. So if whoever wins between the Wizards and the Celtics moves on to the 7th seed and faces Brooklyn in the first round of the playoffs, the loser is not out. They face the winner of the 9 and 10 seeds. It's a little confusing, I understand, but I'll walk you through it as I'm talking about these games. So like I said, the Hornets and the Pacers have already started. I think personally, the Hornets are a much more exciting team to see. And the only reason I say that is the Pacers are going to slow you down. They're going to make it look a little uglier, but they're good at what they're doing. Malcolm Brogdon's been a very improved player, and Domantas Sabonis is playing at an all-star level. So I think anything can happen when it comes to these two teams. You know, 1 second. What I am doing now is putting a link into the comments on both our YouTube page and on our Facebook page. If anybody wants to join me, I should say, it is just me here running solo. I don't do that very often, but if anybody wishes to join me, click on the link and it'll ask you to enter your name, and that if you have a camera and a mic, and then you'll be all set and you'll be in and you can hang out with me, talk to me a little bit about the play-in games. Anybody is welcome to join, and I'll just pop you in here. So getting back to the Indiana Pacers and the Charlotte Hornets, I think ultimately the Hornets are going to start rolling a little bit more. What the hell is it? Why can I not? So in their previous matchups, the Hornets got the better of the Pacers on two of their games. I'm kind of looking over the box score of a couple of these games, and it's very obvious why this happened. Sabonis didn't have a good game. None of their starters on the Pacers had a great game. Miles Bridges had a outstanding game, 23 points on 8 for 12 shooting. And this was all done without LaMelo Ball, who was out with his hand injury, I want to say. So I personally think the way that the Hornets play is going to end up helping them, especially with this team. Now, when they get into the next round against either the Wizards or the Celtics, I just don't think they have the star power outside of LaMelo Ball to really get anything done because Gordon Hayward's still hurt. But in this respect, I think they have enough shooting, have enough explosive scorers to get past the Indiana Pacers at the very least. They're like I said, they're down 16-30, and I'm still saying the Hornets are going to win. But if a team coming out of this play-in tournament in the East is going to be making any noise in any way, shape, or form, Philly, the one team they don't want to see is probably Indiana. Washington might be that other team because Washington is getting hot at the right time, but I think Indiana has the tools. They don't have all of their tools at their disposal. Like I said, they have a couple pieces that are hurt. Anybody joining in, by the way, I did put in the comments for both Facebook and for YouTube. If you want to join in on the podcast, just click on the link in the comments and it'll ask you a couple questions and you can join on in and tell me what you think about these teams. Just getting back to it, I think LaMelo Ball actually is going to have a really good game because I think even though the Pacers slow it down, they don't really have as many like backcourt really good defensive players. TJ McConnell and Malcolm Brogdon are their starting and backup ones. And I just don't think those two are really going to be able to hold down LaMelo Ball for very long. And once you hold him down, he's going to be able to make any crazy pass that you can think of. So I just personally think that even down 18-31, I still think the Hornets have the better shot of winning this game. Moving on to the next game of the night tonight is the Washington Wizards versus the Boston Celtics. This is a very interesting game, in my opinion, just because of the Boston Celtics thought that they were going to be a home court type team making the top four. Granted, we didn't think Philly was going to be this great, so even maybe in the top three. So you have teams that your 1, 2, and 3 were going to be Milwaukee and then Brooklyn, and then either Boston or Philadelphia. It turns out that Boston ended up not playing that well. It seems that missing Gordon Hayward, it was a bigger blow than everybody had thought. I think the Washington Wizards are getting hot at the right time, at the perfect time. They're only 34-38. They're on the road. They're facing a Boston team that, in my opinion, has given up. They have, yes, Jason Tatum. Yes, they have Kemba Walker. They have Marcus Smart. They have pieces, but they don't have the full picture. I don't think they have enough around Jason Tatum right now. Kemba Walker is not that killer Kemba that our cardiac Kemba back in college and back in Charlotte days. I think Bradley Beal is going to get his, even with Marcus Smart guarding him. And even if he is hurt, he's still going to get his 30. Russell Westbrook is the only person who can lose this game for Washington, in my opinion, because it's going to be basically Russell Westbrook against Kemba Walker. And because, in my opinion, the supporting casts of both of these two teams are very similar in the retrospect that they don't have a lot of scoring off the bench on either team. And if you look at the other games that they played, Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal are easily the two people that are the number one reasons for these games that are won. If you look at it, Bradley Beal scored 46 in their last matchup and 24. So you're getting 70 points from Westbrook and Beal. But once you get past that, it's Rui Hachimura, Mo Wagner, Davis Bertans, like they're not household names. And even on the other side, you're looking at a JaMychal Green, or I'm sorry, he's not even there anymore. Haha. I'm doing research as I go. Sorry, guys. Robert Williams, and like there's just the Boston Celtics used to be the deepest team in the NBA, and they're very top heavy at this point. Their starting center was Tristan Thompson, and I think Enes Kanter. I might be wrong on that part, but for a while they were starting Taco Fall, and I don't think anybody believes that Taco Fall is actually a starting caliber or even a backup caliber center in the NBA right now. Yeah, he's tall. He's 7'6", 7'5", but he's not great. He doesn't have good footwork or anything like that. I think in this matchup, what it's going to come down to, and let me get back to where I was. What I think it's going to come down to is Bradley Beal's going to get his, Russell Westbrook's going to get his. I think the determining factor is going to be the backups, largely with, I think, Rui Hachimura, because Rui Hachimura is an up-and-coming player, and he's just been starting to come into his own a little bit more and more. But, I mean, if it ends up being a close game, I got to give it to the Washington Wizards, and I don't think it's going to be a close game, and I think this would move on to Washington Wizards to face, who, in my opinion, I don't know if you want to face Brooklyn or Philly. I'd rather face Philly myself, but this would move Washington on to a very interesting round one opponent in the Brooklyn Nets. Now, what that would do is set up a game against Boston and Charlotte. If Charlotte wins, which currently they're not, again, whoever wins, I don't think Boston makes it to the playoffs. I don't think Boston wants it. I don't think they're going to. I just don't think they have it in them this year. I think they're just defeated, and I think they're in for an overhaul. Maybe not at the head coach position, but I think a lot of their pieces off the bench and other pieces in their starting lineup, even Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart are going to be available to be moved around however they please. I think the only person who's untouchable on this team right now is Jason Tatum. Hold on. Excuse me. So in the Charlotte Boston game for the 8th seed, they would be playing for, again, like I said, I just don't see Boston caring enough to move through this matchup. And I think LaMelo Ball and Devontae Graham, and even this would be the perfect matchup to have Gordon Hayward go off against his old team, but obviously Gordon Hayward's hurt. So I think PJ Washington is going to be the ultimate catalyst in this game, where he's going to end up giving you probably 15 points, and that's going to be enough to put it over the Celtics, because I just don't think the Celtics care enough. So that would line up the 7th seed being the Washington Wizards and the 8th seed being the Charlotte Hornets. Let me know what you guys think out of the East. It's a little more of a toss-up, in my opinion, than the West. I think the West is damn near going to be set in stone pretty quick. So we're going to be moving on to that. Let's start with the one that I think is a lot easier to dissect, and that is going to be the Memphis Grizzlies against the San Antonio Spurs. The Memphis Grizzlies had an opportunity to not lock up, but lock up the 8th seed for Cisco. There's no Jaylen Brown, so unfortunately, I just don't see. I don't think Boston cares. I think they can win. They can easily win one of these two games, whether it be against the Wizards or against either Indiana or Charlotte. They just don't seem like they care anymore. And there were large spans of the season that it just looked like that was the case. Even with Jaylen Brown, they were never the best team in the East. They were never a top 4 team in the East, in my opinion. Which I'm going to side note for a second. How about the Atlanta Hawks and the New York Knicks coming out of nowhere? Like, granted, the East is a lot weaker. It's very top heavy. It's very Philly, Milwaukee, and Brooklyn. That top is very heavy. And then once you get past, there is quite a few of these mid-tier teams: New York, Atlanta, Charlotte, even Washington's starting to get there, and Boston, and there's a big clump of teams that's just like right underneath them. Miami's another one of them, which I can't wait to talk about the playoff preview possibly this weekend with Corey Sparks and another gentleman that I don't want to spoil. But back to what I was talking about, Knicks out in the first series. I can see that. That is the one wild card game matchup that's really hard for me to figure out if it's going to be Knicks or the Hawks, because the Knicks have become very good, but the Hawks are also very lethal when it comes to scoring. They're one of the top scoring teams in the league, if not the best scoring team. So Julius Randle, getting better, but I think Trae Young, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Danilo Gallinari, all of these players, and they have a wicked pick and roll between Clint Capella, or Trae Young, Clint Capella, and then Trae Young and John Collins. I just think the Hawks do have a lot of firepower. It'll be interesting to see, because a lot of players on the Knicks are getting better and they use their defense to win games. So that'll be interesting. Back to what I was talking about with the Spurs and the Grizzlies. I don't think the Spurs have it left. I think the Spurs need to literally just pick it up and blow it all up. I think it's time. They should have done it a couple of years ago. I know they were in the process for a little bit, but now they're kind of lingering around that 8, 9, 10 seed for the last couple seasons. And the fit that I think would have been the best one, and let's see what they do with this, is Cade Cunningham. I think this would be the best fit for Cade. So in my opinion, I don't think the San Antonio Spurs have any need or want. The game difference, it's a 5-game difference in the win column for between these two teams, the 9 and 10 seed. I think the difference between 9 and 10 is a lot bigger than people in years past in the West. I don't think the West, outside of the teams that made it, is very competitive, especially with like Zion going down off the Pelicans. And then once you go down the line all the way to the Houston Rockets, I just think it's a crapshoot at that point. But for this game in particular, you have Ja Morant, who's really coming into his own, and it's really cool to see this team get better and better. And I think you have a Memphis team that's going to continue to get better and better, mainly because of Ja Morant leading that way. You have other people on this team, including a very capable Jaren Jackson, who's been hurt most of this season. It'll be very interesting to see what they do with Jaren Jackson, because they've been kind of rolling him out there very slowly. But just looking at his numbers, let me bring him up real quick. He's in his last few games, he's been averaging roughly about 16 points a game, doing about 6 or 7 rebounds. He's doing well coming back from an injury. He hasn't played almost the entire year. Trust me, I had him on my fantasy team. Hasn't played much. So I think with Jaren Jackson back, Justice Winslow is also playing at a higher level than I think people were expecting. I think the ultimate factor that will take over this game is Dylan Brooks is going to he's going to lock down whoever they put him on, and in my opinion it should be DeJounte Murray, because I think that's obviously the best player on the Spurs, unless you think DeMar DeRozan is, and that's fine. I personally think that team just doesn't have it in it. I don't think they have any of the firepower to move on in this series. So I think Memphis is ultimately going to win this game, and I don't think it's going to be close. I think it might be like a 10-point game. Moving on to the matchup that everybody seems to want to talk about. It's understandable. I don't think this game's going to be a good game. I think it's going to get ugly, and I think it's going to get real ugly. I'm talking about the LeBron James, Anthony Davis in Lakers facing Steph Curry and, well, Andrew Wiggins. I think that's the best I got. Warriors beat the Lakers. That would be really interesting. I would love to see it personally, Zach. I'm going to bring that up just so everybody can see. I personally would love to see that, because, the Lakers have been very iffy. I don't think they're winning the finals, for starters. I don't think the Lakers, they might win this matchup, and I personally think they will, just because Anthony Davis and LeBron James, whether or not they're fully healthy or not, is better than Steph Curry. They just have I think they're ultimately going to double team Steph Curry enough where they're going to force somebody else to beat you. And who else on that team is going to beat you? Kelly Oubre is not there, and he was their best defensive player. So who's going to stop both LeBron and Anthony Davis? Just trying to bring something up. Excuse me. If this could cooperate, that'd be great. Just the firepower on that, dude. No joke. Steph Curry can do a lot of phenomenal things. He didn't play all of this season, but he still damn near scored the most amount of points in the league. He did lead averaging. He averaged the most points in the regular season, which is phenomenal. But a lot of people are saying the Lakers are limping into this play-in game, and they don't think that they're going to have that chemistry together. And I very wholeheartedly disagree with that, mainly because you still have LeBron James, and even a hobbled LeBron James is better than, I would say, 3/4 of this league. And Anthony Davis has been back long enough that he is starting to run that offense, or not run it, but I think they need to trot out there the right starting lineup because they haven't had time to gel really this season. But I think ultimately Anthony Davis is going to start at the 5. I think LeBron's going to basically be your point guard with Schroeder coming off the bench, which getting him back I think helped a lot. The last couple of games for the Lakers, just bringing it up, I'm not as prepared as I normally am. Sorry, guys. So the last couple games has been 4 wins in a row against Indiana, Houston, New York, and Phoenix. That Phoenix one is actually very interesting because I think that was the first game back for LeBron, I want to say. Let me see. No, LeBron didn't play in this game, but Anthony Davis had 26 points. He had 42 points. His over-under was 26. He had 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, and 3 blocks. That's a very Anthony Davis stat line. And I don't even know if the Lakers would need LeBron for this matchup. I personally think that Steph Curry, yes, is a phenomenal player, but ultimately it's going to come down to who has the better star power, and Golden State just doesn't have it. And I think LeBron unless he's lying about this injury, I think they have a chance, but the Warriors have a chance anytime because you have Steph Curry, and that is your biggest reasons for wanting it. Real quick, I'm going to remind you guys one more time. If you guys look up in the comments, I'm going to repost it real quick. If anybody is interested in talking live on this show right now, I just put a link in the description or in the comments. If you want to talk, hang out, talk shit to me, tell me I'm wrong. People love to do that because sometimes I'm wrong, sometimes I'm the only one who's right. But I don't know. I think Draymond Green's not offensive power. Like, who's your number 2 if you're the Golden State Warriors? Honestly, if this was Dallas, I could see them pulling it off. If it was, let me just check out a couple more teams. If it was, what the hell is that? If it was, let's say, New Orleans sitting there, or one of those teams, one of those other like bottom dwelling teams, Dallas, any of those teams, if you got Memphis, I think the Warriors would have a shot. But against the Lakers, I just don't think it's going to happen. I think it's either going to be a really close game or it's going to be a win by the Lakers. I don't think the Golden State Warriors have it in them to win by like 5, more than 5. And that would set up a rematch about what was that, Sunday, a couple days ago, between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Golden State Warriors. And I'm just going to bring up a couple stats from that game because this game was shut down. Steph Curry was shut down in the first half. He only had 13 points, but ended up scoring 33 in the second half of this game to give the Golden State Warriors a 113-101 victory against the Memphis Grizzlies. Honestly, I don't think the Warriors win this game. I think beating a team like Memphis twice in a row is very hard to do. Granted, they'll have home court advantage, the Warriors will, so it'll be a little more interesting. But I think these are the two teams that are destined to line up against each other. I want to say Thursday or Friday they'll face each other. I want to say Friday. But I follow the NBA pretty closely. I can't name the starting lineup of the Golden State Warriors, and that scares me. So with John Morant, Jonas Valanciunas, Jaren Jackson, and Kyle Anderson, that starting lineup, and I'm missing somebody, Dylan Brooks, I think. That starting lineup is not terrifying to like the upper echelons in the West, but like in a 1-1 game, I think Memphis can easily come out of here with a close victory against Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. So that's it for me for this show. If anybody wants to hop on, yell at me, comment, or hop on. If anybody wants to do a show with me about the NBA playoffs that are coming up, let me know. I hope to be I want to do a show Saturday morning so I can get a full NBA playoff preview of both the East and West. The only matchups that are set right now are the LA Clippers and the Dallas Mavericks. The Milwaukee Bucks and the Miami Heat. And then the 4-5 matchups, which if you give me a moment, I will bring those up as well. So you have the New York Knicks and the Atlanta Hawks in the East. And then for the 3-6, you have Denver against Portland. I'll briefly touch on both of these matchups. I personally think last year was not something that's going to repeat this year in the Bucks and the Heat. I will go way deeper into that come Saturday. I'm going to have to figure out who I think is going to win between the Knicks and the Hawks. And then on the other side, you have Denver facing Portland. I think Portland actually wins this because I think Damian Lillard is going to put the whole team on his back. Denver and Jokic have had an amazing season, but without Jamal Murray, I just don't think that team has firepower to compete with the scoring of that entire team between CJ McCollum, Damian Lillard, Carmelo Anthony, Yusuf Nurkic. I personally think Portland is destined to have a really impressive run this year in the playoffs. And then to move on to the Clippers real quick, Clippers and Mavericks. If the Clippers can put their pieces back together, because it always seems like the Clippers have the right tools. They have Kawhi Leonard and they have Paul George, but they need to get over that hump. They really do. And I don't know if it's a Paul George curse or anything, but it does seem like it might actually start happening. So, or not happening. It has been happening. It seems like it's a trend now. So it'll be interesting to see how that first game happens between the Clippers and the Mavericks. I think Luka Doncic can do a whole lot, but this time around he also has Kristaps Porzingis, so it'll be interesting to see. But for the Davis Sports Feud, I will see you guys in the near future. I want to say Saturday with a good full playoff preview, and I'm going to leave you how you guys welcomed with my promo. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Do you smell?
You're listening to the Davis Sports Feud.
What is happening? Davis is cooking.
Bruh. Online podcast.